when I actually hit seventh grade, and they would take me to a high school in the morning and then back to the middle school in the afternoon. That year, I was introduced to cocaine when I was 12 years old. And then for some reason, I don't know why, my life started getting crappy. But even with that, I had this hidden drug habit. If I have anything that I'm doing or anything I need to hide from the public, or, anything that I can't share with you guys on a podcast, like, that's no way to live. I don't believe that we actually lose who we are in our addiction. I believe our addiction makes us act certain ways for the drug specifically. But our heart is our heart, and it's really, every addict wants to help other addicts when they get sober or clean. I haven't met one that was like, well, I'm good.
This is the Don't Hide the Scars podcast, presented by Pain, Parents and Addicts in Need.
Adam Vibe Gunton, thank you for joining us on Pain's Don't Hide the Scars podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Stoked to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's the weird thing about this recovery community. I'm having a conversation with a guy from Australia who lives in Colombia, and he goes, "You know who you need to talk to?" that's how we met. So
I love James, man. Love that guy.
Yeah, we're speaking about James Swanwick, if you've not heard of him. But we're here to talk about you. I mean, you were just one of those people that after James made me aware of you, and I'm digging in like, oh, yeah, we've got to talk with Adam. I mean, Flindt, Adam is the people that have been through these doors. Yeah. I mean, your story from the way you've transformed your life. I mean, homeless, living on the streets. But I'm always curious, like, childhood. What was little Adam like? What was the home environment?
Yeah, they say probably about 2/3 of us that go into serious addiction have a serious, childhood trauma, or like a series of serious childhood traumas. That wasn't me. I grew up in Littleton, Colorado. I went to a school everybody's heard of, Columbine High School. And going up to there, I was a, exemplary student. I had to leave my elementary school in 5th grade to go learn with 8th graders and stuff. And then when I actually hit 7th grade, and they would take me to a high school in the morning and then back to the middle school in the afternoon, that year I was introduced to cocaine when I was 12 years old. And then for some reason, I don't know why, my life started getting crappy. But even with that, I had this hidden drug habit. But then I was still, in Little League, I was the Little League World Series home run derby hitter. We won state every year for my Little League football team, and we won nationals once. At Columbine, I was the captain of our football team when we won state my senior year. But I always had this hidden drug habit that, I was able to put off this facade. I don't know if you guys know anything about hiding deep, dark secrets behind.
Oh, yeah.
But I was able to put off this like real, jockey fraud. And that's what it felt like. It felt like a fraud, But then I had something traumatic actually happen my freshman year of college, when I woke up to my best friend calling me at 4:47 a.m. and I'd been partying all night. I answered like a jerk and hung up on him, and he shot himself.
Oh, jeez.
For nearly a decade, I couldn't tell anybody that story. I had to just pretend like that didn't happen. Yeah. And that was the first time in my life that I began consciously using drugs to mask how I felt. Right. Before that, it was all fun and games and, partying, that kind of stuff. But that's when drugs became my solution. Drugs and alcohol became my solution.
Isn't it amazing how we're all so extremely good at running 2 lives, sometimes 3 different lives? Doesn't matter if we're doing it in high school, doesn't matter if we're doing it in college, or even as grown adults. We are masters at doing that. And then of course people will ask me, sometimes they'll go, well, geez, I never knew you were even using anything. And then you'd have other people that go, hell, I've been knowing for a long time because you look like shit. Okay. But we still think, I always remember the time when I weighed 145 pounds as a full grown adult. I thought I had the heroin chic thing going on, and everybody else was going, my God, he's got HIV or something. It just got bad, but I don't know, not everybody, but me, I seem to think that I kept pulling it off till I didn't. you
Oh
know.
yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
this is all part of why I do what I do also, because just because we stopped using drugs doesn't mean that we don't have tendencies to live a certain way, even in recovery.
Right.
And that's why, I believe in sharing our stories. I believe in being transparent about who we are so that we're not ashamed of ourselves for anything. And it
Right.
also helps me to, act right behind closed doors. I am waking up and cold plunging and saunaing and working out and doing these things so that I can prepare myself to best serve other people. Like all I think about is helping addicts,
Right.
and if I have anything that I'm doing or anything I need to hide from the public or, anything that I can't share with you guys on a podcast, like that's no way to live, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All too well. And
Well,
boy.
you said something that really hit home already. Most people out there, they assume that most of us addicts are just kind of scumbag people. And I've been preaching this message for years and years. Most addicts are fairly intelligent to extremely intelligent. And that's kind of a hidden known fact, because people, again, we used to slow our brains down. We are good, giving, caring people in a lot of different ways, and when we can't provide that, what do? We self-sabotage, at least that's what I did, but inside the entire time, I'm going, God dang it, this isn't me. I mean, how many times have you heard that from other addicts, going, I don't want to use this. I don't want to use this. I don't want to use this, but yet we're using it because we have to.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a weird situation.
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised top quality care with programs for detox and patient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living support groups, and more. New Perceptions North provides adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect in a safe, comfortable environment to begin the process of recovery to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction. Call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
Yeah, it's almost we willingly, or not even willingly, subconsciously take on our own kryptonite. To slow it down. I mean, I'm hearing Adam at 12 introduced to cocaine, very high achiever, and it's like people might go, well, how did your parents not know? Because you were a very high achiever and it's easy to hide. Like for me, when I was deep in my alcoholism, working in broadcast radio, overseeing 15 people in staff, we were thriving. Why would anyone have a clue?
Right.
Why would they know? There was never anything not done. Matter of fact, the vast majority of things were done ahead of time.
Yep.
Like well ahead of time. So how's anyone going to know? It's an easy mask to wear.
And I want to go back to what we were talking about with, addicts are extremely intelligent and have these good hearts and that kind of stuff. And what a sponsor told me this in a really interesting way. He said that we're humans. We're just really human. We deal with these human aspects in a different way where we have to use drugs and alcohol in order to feel human. But we still have all those different characteristics that, everybody cops resentments. You don't have to be an addict to cop a resentment at somebody. It's just our resentments make us, shoot up heroin.
Right.
Be careful, right? But it's interesting because, when I was out there, I remember one time, and this is a story I don't even think I've been able to share this publicly, but I was living in a trap house in the winter. We didn't have running water. We didn't have electricity. And literally we had a metal trash can in the middle of the living room that we had a fire. There was like 10, 11 of us living there. And my mom had given me a blanket that year for Christmas, had, mailed it to me. And there was this girl I remember in the corner. She was sleeping, but I could see that she was shivering. And, I put the blanket on her. And everyone else was out. No one ever knew. And I was still a drug addict at that time,
Right.
you know? And that I don't believe that we actually lose who we are in our addiction. I believe our addiction makes us act certain ways for the drug specifically, but our heart is our heart, you know? And it's really every addict wants to help other addicts when they get sober or clean. I haven't met one that was like, well, I'm good.
That is so true. That is so true.
That's funny you mentioned that. I remember being in a meeting one time where a gentleman, he goes, as a matter of fact, he was my sponsor. He's a real wise ass. And he goes, all right, how many of the under 2 years here? And a bunch of people raise their hand. He goes, great, all of you still working for treatment, right? In treatment, and raising hands, wanting to be counselors. And he goes, yeah, don't worry, half of you, that shit's gonna change soon.
Right.
So,
yeah. And what's actually really scary about that, you know what the number one highest relapsing job for someone in recovery is?
I'm
Peer
sure
recovery
it's
coach.
yeah.
I bet. I bet it is. Well, it's like I've told Jason this a ton of times. It's like when I see people on social media, and they're going out there and they're showing those signs that I've got 1 week, excuse me, 1 week sober, 3 months sober. It's like good for you, all right, but put down the sign, okay. Focus on what you need to be doing right now, right? Because I believe that is part of the stigma to the outside world, because when that person relapses, the outside world is going, well, see, told you. I've always had an issue with that, because if you think about it, I got clean in '01. I didn't start this until 2009. I mean, I took 8 years to finally decide what I wanted to do and where God wanted me to be. And so again, good for those people. I'm not taking away the time that they've got under their belt, but be very, very careful with that, because you don't know who you're affecting. Yeah. You don't know if there's some kid out there, at 17 that's neck deep in fentanyl at this point, and he sees that, and then all of a sudden, where's that person to get anymore, right? And that person's no more on social media. Well, it's because they relapse, and that kid happens to find out or something, and then it's like that could blow that kid all to hell.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple, because I have a social media page, and I haven't held it. I've held a sign once, I think, when I got 6 years, but I had things and told a story about like how I was homeless and now I'm doing a lot of stuff and I've helped this many people, and you can do this too, type thing.
Right.
And I do know people that do a lot of social media, and they do it in a way specifically to spread hope and specifically connect with people and show people that it's possible. And then I also see a lot of people in early recovery that get addicted to how many likes they get for 30 days clean. And I was super lucky in early recovery because I had a sponsor that wouldn't even celebrate my time. When I was like, hey, I'm coming up on 9 months, he's like, cool, how are your men's going?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was always just, it doesn't matter. It's not about the time anymore. You're never going to drink again, or you are. The other.
To me, he's absolutely right. For example, I've never been a day counter ever. I could not tell you how many days I have, because again, I always lived under the umbrella of my God. I didn't use yesterday. I didn't use today. I don't know what tomorrow holds. I mean, for me, that seemed to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that
I can't remember days anymore. I can't remember shit.
I think some of the confusion too, maybe for early people to recovery, is thinking that, and this was one of the things when I started working with Flindt, he said, this work here, this isn't your recovery.
Exactly.
And I think there's some confusion in the service piece of it that I'm putting up a sign again. We're not taking away. Yeah, like getting 1 day is tough, and for some people that is like phenomenal. Let alone 2, 3 into months, years.
Right.
But I think they confuse that with that being service work and working their recovery.
Right.
when it's not, it's an inside job. And like, I would love to meet your sponsor. That's the kind of stuff we need to be
Oh,
called
sure.
on. It's like, that's
Yeah,
great,
I think it's great.
but
I
what
will
all's
never tell
underneath?
anybody who my sponsor is because he is mine.
Understood and agreed.
You bet.
But with that
But
service piece, that's exactly what they found was the reason why so many peer recovery coaches relapse because they
Mhm.
stopped doing it for free and for fun. They stopped doing it just to help this person however they possibly can. And now they have a script. Now they have a clock in. Now
Yep.
they're helping this person based on a formula and based on their job and their 9 to 5. So they're no longer, there isn't the spiritual aspect to it anymore. When you're sitting across from them, it's no longer like I'm helping you because I know that my life depends on this and because I can't wait to see the light come on in your eyes.
Right.
It's there is nothing I love more than watching an addict recover in front of me.
Right.
mhm.
Right. It's the best. It's the best. But I'm gonna blow it up a little bit. Okay. I'm just gonna because this one I don't think I've ever talked about before. Because what you just said is both of you is absolutely true. Right down the line. What happens when you get that person that goes to work for a treatment center? Let's face facts. We all know that there are good treatment centers and there are bad treatment centers. And what happens when that person all of a sudden goes to work for a treatment center and that treatment center is starting to do some underhanded things? Maybe they're fudging with insurances. Maybe they're fudging with the doctors. Maybe you've got somebody in there that's just not above board, right? And all of a sudden now that blows up the honesty piece, it blows up the spiritual piece, it blows up every piece to that person. And I know individuals, especially those that are, in their early 20s to mid to late 20s that are in that have left working in treatment because of that, because it was so disheartening to them that they couldn't take it anymore. And a lot of those people aren't even, I mean, I'm not saying they relapsed, but you don't hear of them anymore.
Yeah.
Because that is a huge piece to this treatment industry, all right, that we all know is out there. And there's very, very little oversight to all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Just food for thought, man.
Yeah, I turned down over $250,000 of business last year.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559-579-1551 or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
You can tell when somebody starts talking to you about opening a center and all they talk about is the numbers and how much we can do and the amount of beds we can fit in there and this kind of stuff. All right, great. I actually have 3 other consulting firms that you'd like to work with, but we can't work together. And I am straightforward with it and what I've found, all my clients, like I immediately know if they're my people because all they talk about is how if I open this, I can help this group of people. I can serve them with this service because they don't have this in this area. And I'm like, boom, you're about to get the best marketer in the game. That's what's missing. I have friends that are literally spending $1.5 million a month on PPC on Google Ads. And he has a great program and, it's great. But what about the people that, they're starting up and they have this huge heart and they have this incredible program, this thing that could really help people, but nobody hears about it,
Right. Right.
Oh, we know.
I know all too well.
Yeah.
Google owns the world. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, we started an initiative, Veterans in Need, and trying to get that off the ground. These are all tough things. After Flindt had said, "Hey, we're signed up to help the VA with this. We're going to give Narcan out," and we meet these amazing men and a few women, and boy, it's I mean, it's needed. The vast majority that we met were homeless.
Yeah.
Very few weren't. There
Yeah.
was a few that it was very evident that were still struggling with substance issues. Some of them due to prescriptions. I mean,
Right.
we met people with, I think there was one guy there that came through that had lost a leg,
Yep.
one that was struggling with diabetes, and it just, it was,
Well,
yeah.
Adam, I mean, we kind of switch gears here, but that's okay. We can get back. But I just have this passion for vets, for veterans. Every time I say vet, somebody goes, "What, a veterinarian?" And here's a comment that I made the other day to somebody. So on last Friday, I had to go speak to a group of veterans. And again, they're kind of run through the VA and then through another private treatment center. This is more of a transitional living place than anything. And my concern is this. And by the way, on Tuesday of last week, I went and talked to the women, the veterans. All right. So two different locations, two different parts of town. When I went to the men's, when I got out of my car, this was in one of the worst neighborhoods in this city. And when I got out of my car, I could smell the urine. Yeah, there was the stench of urine in the streets. I'm not exaggerating. And when I walked into this, it was like a revised apartment complex. It's in a crappy neighborhood. You could smell the smells of the outside world all over the place. These guys were decent. They were nice. They were just gentlemen. Right down the line, I could tell that there was lots of PTSD going on. They weren't currently using anything, but the majority of them have been through this because of prescription pills, because the VA hands those out like candy. But then again, on one side, how do you not give a vet a prescription painkiller when they're so torn up?
Yeah.
And then with the women, the neighborhood was even worse. Okay. And it's like, why does everything that have to do with veterans and the homeless have to be in such a crappy part of every town? It's like, is that conducive to one's recovery? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. What, you want to get up every morning, walk outside and dodge drug dealers? I mean, that's kind of the last thing you want these guys to do.
In my personal belief on the subject, and I was just letting you go because that's one of my biggest passions that I'm working on figuring out how to actually build something that helps them, because it's crap. It is absolute crap. I have veterans coming to me that, the VA, I don't even know how to say it correctly on air, but they don't have the services for veterans that are struggling. They just don't. And I believe, in my personal belief, veterans deserve everything. They deserve more than I do, and it should be 100% free to them. Like, they did something so that you and I can be on this podcast, They should be treated for the rest of their life with whatever they need.
That's right. And I had a couple of guys that, again, with me, everybody's young, but I had a couple of these young guys that were coming up to me, and I'm looking in their eyes, and it's almost like they're just crying out, hey, is there anything you can do? Because I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to do that. Right. I mean, so our little plan here in a lot of things is I've got somebody that I'm kind of partnering with to get, he's got some houses in some decent neighborhoods, but it's just not about putting them in a house. It's about getting them clothing. It's about making sure their diet is good. It's making sure they're getting the services that they need, whether it's an outpatient service, no matter what it is. And so because and again, I'm not trying to slam the VA here, but a little bit they need to be slammed because, right? Because they're just not providing for these men and women. And so, but here's the kicker, Adam, and I think you're going to agree with me on this because you've been around a while now. When we start putting stuff out to raise money because we want to be able to scholarship these vets in to a transitional living. We want to make sure that, again, they've got food, they've got clothing. They don't have any damn money.
Right.
They just don't. Whatever VA benefit they're getting, I don't even know what it is. But it's like it to me it's criminal.
Yeah.
It's absolutely criminal. But the point to all of that is this. Jason knows me, I can get on a tangent for days. We're going to see how the community reacts to this. Because everybody's very good about talking about this stuff. Everybody's very good about going, oh, this is just a wonderful initiative. We're getting all the likes and the clicks and, and all the stuff that goes with it. All right, guys. Well, we're a nonprofit. Okay. Where's the funding for it? We have to have funding for it in order to scholarship somebody or to feed somebody or to clothe somebody, So we're going to see how this thing pans out. And if and when the community stands up and says, hey, we want to be a part of this thing.
Yeah. And we should definitely talk off air about some of the ways that I've been putting things together in my head, and on paper. But the way I operate, like I have to go all in with something and focus on it and get it done. Yep. So I've been waiting for the right time, but veterans have to help veterans also, especially combat veterans. Like there's just certain things that we have to be able to talk to somebody else that actually gets it.
Yes.
There's more to veteran, mental health and addiction than there is to, mine.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely there is. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't understand what a vet, I can see what a vet maybe went through, but I certainly don't understand the bombs dropping and the gun and the bullets whizzing by and, and diving in a hole every 5 seconds. All right. To avoid getting killed. I don't know what that's like.
Losing friends,
losing your buddy right next to you that just got blown to hell. I don't know how to talk to a veteran about that. I can talk to him about substance abuse.
Yeah.
Right. I can deal with why he's using those drugs, but I certainly can't deal with the reason behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump back into your story. You were sharing, story about being in a trap house. Your mom sent you that blanket. But when for you, for lack of a better term, that rock bottom, that it's just, you were like, I'm done. I don't want to die.
Like 4 years before I got clean.
There it is. Sounds familiar.
Familiar. It's, the first rock bottom that I can remember, I had, because even after high school, I had a bunch of friends and was in the rave community and was staff at all the parties and was on VIP lists and stuff. And then somebody found out that I was using heroin, and then everybody found out that I was using heroin, and then everybody kind of kicked me out. Right. So I end up in this apartment alone, trying to off myself by overdosing and leaving an iPad suicide note. Right. I thought that was rock bottom, but it got worse. And then I thought it was rock bottom when I left the first business that I had. Right. And then I had to figure life out again. Then I thought it was rock bottom when the police found me dead behind the wheel of a car and pulled me out and had to break in. And then I was facing this charge because there was dope in my car, of course. Right. And then, 2 years later, I'm homeless. And I thought it was crazy that I'm sitting in this homeless shelter looking around and I'm praying and looking around at all the people around me where my life had become. And then I got kicked out of the homeless shelter. So for us, the rock bottom for me was just realizing that I had tried everything within my own power to stop. Yeah. I had tried every plan and every schedule of meetings and every mentor and church and Bible study. And I even went to the MMA gym thinking they might be able to beat recovery into me. I tried everything. And it just came to a point where I realized that anything that I try within my own grasp has failed me. Yeah. And there's nothing I can do. And that's when I told God, and I said, I'm done with this. I'm not going to meetings anymore. I'm not going to probation. I'm not going to church. I'm not going to Bible study anymore. Please just let me die. And I remember how honest I was. I actually wanted him to let me die because
Mm-hmm.
all life was suffering to me,
Right. Right.
And he whispered to me and he said, "It's time, go." And it's like this voice that goes into my heart. I know you guys, everybody
Yep.
has their own experience with it, but it's there. And you would think that I would be all excited, like, "Oh my gosh, God told me it's time." But I immediately got upset because what's different about this time? And I start yelling at him.
Mm-hmm.
What's different about this time than all the times that I said I'm never using again and I dumped it in the toilet and then went to bed and woke up in the morning and pawned my TV? What's different about this time than all the other times it was time to stop? And I'm crying and I'm yelling at him. I'm hitting the steering wheel of this car. And then I kind of calm down and he just repeats himself. He says, "It's time, go." And
Yep.
I end up going to this Bible study. I'm 12 minutes late at this point, and I bust the doors open. And I'm 220 right now. I was 148 pounds at the end.
Yeah.
And I bust the doors open, and I drop on my knees, and I threw my hands up, and I said, "Guys, I used again. I can't stop. Please help me. Please help me." And the difference of this time from every other time was I was no longer throwing my hands up to a fellowship or to a Bible study or a pastor or any human power. I was throwing my hands up to God and just doing whatever he told me at this point.
Yep.
That was really my step one, two, three, boom,
Done. Yep.
and then
That is just so good. I mean, I'm getting chills because I have a friend of mine who's actually the guy that got me into my last treatment center, and he's done so much and helped me start this. But I remember we were in our 30s, and he wasn't a drug addict by any means or an alcoholic, but he was really struggling with faith. He grew up as a Catholic, and everything that goes with that. And and all of a sudden, it's like he told me, I was like the one friend that he told me this. He said I was just always talking with God but wrestling with him. And he said finally he gets on his knees, he throws his hands up, and he says, "God, you've got 30 days. You've got 30 days to show me who you are." He goes, "Because if I don't know who you are in 30 days, I'm going right back to what I was doing. But in that 30 days, he said, I'm going to do everything you tell me to do."
Amen.
Right?
I bet he showed up.
God showed up. All right. Because right after that, this is a great story, because right after that, by some strange reason, the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, I go by his house. I had just gotten married. He wasn't married yet. He opens the door and he goes, "What are you doing tonight?" And I'm using it this time. My addiction was going all still crazy. I go, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" He goes, "I'm getting baptized." He goes, "I need you to take me to McKinley Baptist Church." And I go, "Where's that?" He goes, "It's this little place out in the country." And I said, "Let's go. Okay, I'll be by to pick you up." And we go out there, and I kid you not, we walk into this place. There's like a lady in a muumuu playing the piano, okay? And she's just playing some good old Southern gospel on that piano. There's about 6 people in the sanctuary, and this big old tub up in front. And he goes, "I'm doing this." I go do it. All right. And I see him walk across. He gets baptized. And from that point on, again, his life was, like everybody else's. Okay.
Yeah.
But that was the point, because he finally just said, "God, you got to show me here."
Yeah.
Okay. But I've also got a role in this thing.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's what's important too.
Yeah. And a couple things on that. First, my sobriety date is November 6th of 2017.
Okay.
I was baptized on August 28th of 2017. So there's not God is not looking at you as an addict at any point in your life. No matter what you're doing, he never puts that identity on you. And what I found is that no matter what I'm struggling with, it's always an inside job.
Yep.
It's always an inside job first, and then the outside starts to, you know, reflect the inside. And then number two, going back, because you just said something that ties right into this. So that day, you know, do the Bible study, they pray for me, that kind of stuff. 5 days later, I have 5 days clean, and I'm super excited. I hadn't had 5 days in so long, you know. I thought I had made it, basically. And my best friend Brendan, he would pick me up from the homeless shelter. He would pick me up from the streets. He would take me to church or breakfast or Bible study and stuff. And he picked me up to take me to IHOP. And I'm sitting there across from him, and I'm so excited. I'm like, dude, I had 5 days. Yeah, I'm actually going to make it this time. And da-da-da-da. And then I get a text message. And I have this little flip phone, and it's from my dope dealer. He's like, hey, bro, I just got some new stuff. It's fire. I'll give you a free 20 to try out. And right when I read it, I feel something go in through the top of my head, all the way through my body. My toes were tingling, my fingers were tingling, lost my peripheral vision, and then my thumbs just started texting back. And it wasn't like King James. It was like, ye shall not text me again, thou hast texted me. And then I finished the text, and I feel it leave me. I was like, what the heck? And I show it to Brendan. I was like, dude, that was not me. I was like, I don't know what that was. That was not me. He was like, okay. And I push send, and I close it, and I'm putting it in my pocket. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what that was. And I look back up, and Jesus is sitting across from me. Whoa. The entire restaurant had completely disappeared, glow coming from behind him, smile on his face, never said a word. I immediately knew it was happening, immediately knew who it was, fell with my face to the table, my hand up. I said, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. Came back up, and he was gone. Now, I am of the faith that God is able to instantly heal somebody. No more cravings, no more withdrawals, total reformation of everything in your life, right? That didn't happen for me.
Right.
I was waking up and literally shaking because I've had a needle in my arm multiple times a day for so many years straight that I am sick. And the only relief I would get was when I was actually sitting down with my sponsor doing the 12 steps, or I was actually sitting down writing my inventory. So you know what I did? The steps. As if my life depended on it. Right. On day 25, I did my first ever fifth step. On day 26, my sponsor came and picked me up from the sober living house like he did every morning to do the work with me in his 1983 mailman Jeep. We were driving to the movie theater that he managed to go start working on the 6th and 7th step. I'm looking over at this beautiful sunrise, and for the first time since I was 12 years old, I had no desire to drink or use.
That's just wonderful.
It does take work from us. It does take work. And when I share this story, I make sure to add that part because I can't take away the experience I had from my story.
Right.
But that experience is not necessary to recover.
Right.
And those things, we hear those often. They're called religious experiences. You know, when someone has a light and God experience, that kind of stuff. And the interesting thing is that I've actually sponsored probably 80% of my sponsees have been either atheists, agnostics. I had some, New Age and Hindu and these people like just practicing different things. And the coolest experience I had was sponsoring an atheist. And when we were sitting across from each other, and he would constantly, no matter what we talked about with God, he would just say, no, like, just not true. Logically, this is why. And da, 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 da. He's been an atheist his whole life. And then we were reading We Agnostics together. And I remember he literally put his hand up like this to point at the book and yell. And he pauses mid-stroke and looks up at me and says, I feel him.
Whoa.
I feel him. And that doesn't mean that he came to Christ.
Right.
But the beautiful thing about the 12 steps is that we have one ultimate authority. We all have a loving God that expresses himself through the work that we do with each other, saving each other's lives.
Right. Yeah.
And I love it.
Right.
You can't get that anywhere else.
No, you can't. Well, you know, and again, what you're saying is, I mean, how many times have I said the exact same thing? You can't, you know, God's just not going to do as I dream a genie move and just take away all the withdrawal symptoms here. we put that poison in our bodies. That body has got to come out. Now, can he? Of course he can. He can do whatever he wants, right? But that's why, Adam, I don't want to say I have a problem with certain faith-based treatment centers. What I have a problem with is how they're running them. Because if you take somebody like a Teen Challenge that is totally faith-based, right? I think Teen Challenge is a wonderful program if it is once the addict or alcoholic has gotten the proper medical detox, the proper amount of time in residential and some outpatient work. Then if you want to go do a year or 2 or 3 in Teen Challenge, that's fine. But you cannot, in my opinion, throw somebody into a room and toss, and again, I'm over exaggerating a little bit here, but toss somebody a Bible and say, pray your way out of the next 3 weeks of horrific detox. You can't do it. And what people don't get is when the general public is when they're looking for treatment facilities and they come across a Teen Challenge or another faith-based, they don't have the licensing to medically detox.
Yeah.
Right. So again, part of it, I hate the word ignorant, but it's part ignorance on the general public for not researching it more and finding out. That's why here we promote so much, okay, that in these days, especially with fentanyl, okay, to try to even get somebody detoxed in a 2-week amount of time is damn near impossible.
Yeah. And they're authorizing 3 to 7 days right now.
That's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. Yeah. I mean, you and I talk about the insurance thing all day long. I mean, how screwed up that is.
Let me heal you in 28 days.
Right. Really? I mean, I still can't find the bathroom in 28 days. Okay. Yeah. When I went in, so I mean, there it is.
I want to jump back though. Something that you were talking about there reminded me of our conversation with comedian Alonzo Bowden, where he was talking about working with newcomers, and they're like, it's a God problem. I got a problem with God, and they're like, he says to them, well, don't you think God might have a problem with you? Wait, you've been working? Think about it. Yeah. Think about it. But it is, I'm with you on that. It is a beautiful thing when an individual does come to that understanding, my saying no outside solutions to inside problems. It's got to start to flow from within. The way in which we work and which we think. I mean, you're right. However we think, that's the way we're going to see the world. It just is, and if we start to change that within, like it's been some struggles in my life, but I also know, bad times pass. Yeah. I also know, unlike any other worldly circumstance, God will take our hardships and our pain and use it for purpose. Yep. I've not seen too many businesses that take a felon or something and utilize them to grow in X, Y, and Z. But boy, I've seen God and a belief in oneself that there is something greater than us do some amazing work with that. Yeah. And
well, that's exactly what we do.
It's cliche,
recovered
right?
on purpose.
Right. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, recovered on purpose. It started with me writing my own book. From Chains to Saved, I wrote my story into a book. God told me to do it. I wrote it in 5 weeks, published it, became a bestseller. Things started to go like all over the place online. I started getting messages from people all over the world about this book that I wrote once is now helping people recover in Sweden. And they hit me up and they say that, hey, your book inspired me. I'm actually going into treatment tomorrow. Nice. So I started, and what I didn't realize at the time was that when I wrote it in 5 weeks, I had to go on my whiteboards and figure out exactly how to do it and write down all of my experiences in 5 words or less, and then take the ones that I want to put in the book and put them over here, and then put it in this map here so that it goes in chronological to tell the story that I want to tell. What I didn't realize at the time was that I created a blueprint for anybody in recovery to write their story. So I started coaching and training other people in recovery to write and publish books. And we've published a couple dozen now. And, we've had, and what I believe, my story is going to resonate with some people, but there's a lot of people that are struggling with addiction that if you say, Jesus, they're like, get out of here. I can't even hear that right now. But then what's beautiful is that we all have a special and unique story with a special and unique person out there struggling that has to hear it. They have to. I don't know what it's like to have a childhood riddled with sexual trauma, right?
Right.
But I can tell you there's a lot of women out there struggling in addiction that do. And Crystal published her book, Say You Love, and actually told her story in a way that was about not about the trauma. It wasn't glorifying the trauma she went to, but about the recovery from these things that happened, about the drug addiction that it was causing, and then how, now she's living this life of recovery and doing podcasts and talking about her story and helping women. And those women aren't going to message me and say the things that they went through, but they're messaging her all the time. I went through that too. I thought, I've never told anybody this,
Yeah.
and that's the power of our stories. And each and every one of us, and that's, my message for everyone out there that's listening to this right now. You do have a story that someone out there will suffer without hearing it. Period. There's something about your story that is unique and special to at least one person out there that will hear it, and you can save their life. I've watched it time and time again. People saying, "Oh, I don't have a story like yours of meeting Jesus." Yeah, good. That's mine.
Right.
But all of our stories collectively told are causing an impact like never before. I mean, it started with Dr. Bob and Bill W.
Right.
They just had this idea about sharing this idea and sharing it with as many people as possible. It's just sharing our stories.
Yeah, and again, if you help one person, and by the way, the number of people that are out there that you're never even going to know that you helped.
Yes.
Because there's a lot. Okay. I guarantee it. Both you guys and everybody else that's in recovery. There's so many that you're never going to meet. Right. Yeah. But guess what? It's not your job to meet them. Okay. God put you here so you could write your story. So those people will hear it, and then they can do the same. And those people can do the same. And it keeps going on and on and on.
So
that's how the thing works.
Yeah. On that, I actually have a little bit of a philosophy. I don't know. I believe it 100% though. I believe that when we die, we are actually going to be able to see all those ripple effects. We're going to be able to see all those heavenly treasures that were stored up by us loving every single person as well as we can on our way through life.
Yeah.
Even that person that when we walked by on the street and they had a sign and we gave them, a few bucks, right, told them our story, said, if you need anything, here's my number. I know you don't have a phone, but write it down and keep this thing, dude, because when you need me, I'm here. That even if they don't call, who knows what happens with their life? And I don't think about it like that anymore because I know I'll get to see. I will get to see all these little things and all the people they helped.
Sure. Sure. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Yeah, I've seen so many people come in and out of this, what if you want to call it our industry or whatever it is, over the years. And to this day, there is nothing better. I mean, I was talking with a gentleman, this is about, 7 or 8 weeks ago. He lost his son to an overdose, and he's trying to start a couple of things here. And he's a college basketball coach. And we were sitting in a Starbucks, and here I am talking with this gentleman. This is Vaughn.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. And so we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, this other gentleman walks up to me and goes, Flindt, he goes, I don't know if you remember me. He goes, but you helped my son. And, and of course I go, well, of course I remember. Okay. When I didn't. Okay. But it's like, and then here comes his wife, who throws her arms around me and says, this young man now has 11 years. He's working, he's married, he's got a couple of kids. And two things happen there, because you got to remember, I was sitting with a guy that just lost his son. For him to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. So a part of me is going, I'm so glad I could have helped. Mm-hmm. All right. And the other part of me is going, damn it. why couldn't I have met Vaughn's son earlier?
Mm.
Not saying I could have, okay, but there's a possibility there. See, that's how I think. It's not so much sometimes about it's the people that I can't help
Yeah.
that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, and I used to have that like for real, because in my first like 2, 3 years of doing this thing like publicly and like really trying to reach people, and then Recovered on Purpose is fully nonprofit. Like I literally message every single person that messages. Those messages are coming from me back, and I'm not trying to get them into treatment unless
Right.
that's what they need. But I don't profit off of any treatment center that they go to, right? I send them a
Right.
list that I have of like 80 in their area, right?
Right.
Um, but I used like for the first couple of years, I would get hate, because they figure that I'm one of the ones that's probably doing the backyard, treatment center brokering stuff when I
Yep.
wasn't. And then I've even had in my recovery 3 different times somebody saying that they're going to off themselves. It's my fault, and then block me
Yeah.
3 times.
Wow.
And what I had to do was get to a point where, and anybody at any point would be able to get full access to my messenger of my Facebook, and they will not find anything but love to every single person that reached out. Nothing but that. And what I had to make that choice very early on, because I love people, everyone. I don't care how you come at me. I don't hate you for that. I know that there is something behind there that if we could find that, then you can receive this love and then you'll understand it. So every time that someone comes at me like that, and I don't get it at all anymore, never, almost never, because I come at them with, man, I appreciate that you care about our community enough to say something publicly coming at me like that to protect our community from people doing that. If you want to have a call, shoot me a message so that we can get to know each other, because that's not me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so beautiful about living this one life, not the double life, not the forward facing social media thing and then doing this other stuff back here. No, it's
Right.
about, I don't care. Here's my open book of what I'm doing with our community, because all I want to do is solve this thing.
Right.
All I want to do is make it so that nobody has to suffer if they choose recovery.
Right. Adam, where are you living now?
Denver, Colorado.
Oh, okay. You're in Denver. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just curious. Yeah. It's, yeah, communities can be a pain in the butt. Time.
We're humans.
Right. But especially if you're speaking the truth,
Yeah.
that's, but I made that decision a long time ago because again, I can be a hard ass and I can be loud and I can be even a little obnoxious from time to time. But it's about the truth.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm telling the truth about it, then I'm okay. I sleep well at night, and I know that God's watching. So
Amen.
it's, I mean, that's the other part of it, you
Yeah.
know. And again, and trust me, if I make a mistake somewhere down the line, which I have, okay, we all have, we're all going to, let God handle it because He will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. An affirmation that I read to myself for like 2 years was, I have an audience of one, and God is my judge and sees everything I do.
Yeah.
Because if all of us, if we are putting stuff online or doing this for kudos of people, it will never be enough. And we will
Correct.
suffer our way through it, because we can have 500 people say, man, that podcast was so great. I loved when you said this and loved when you said that. And then one guy could be like, I disagree.
Right.
And we're going to spend an hour with this dude
Right.
trying to explain to him what we meant.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. That's so true. That's so true.
I had a personal situation that recently, and I just told this individual I loved them, and they were looking for a fight. It's like, I got no desire to change your mind.
Yeah.
My wife asked me, like, aren't you gonna like? I'm like, no, there's no point in trying to change your mind about this issue. This is the
Yeah.
way they see it. Well, it might mean your friendship is done. And I went, well, that's not my choosing.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that came at them. I just told them I missed them and they unloaded on me. Okay. What do you want me to do? Okay. I don't know. It's how it is. And you're right, because as far as all right, this thing gets, if 50,000 views on YouTube, well, that would be nice, but we still have another episode to put out the next week. Right. There is no dangling carrot. There's just a stick to keep going as long as God wants me to. That's it.
Amen.
That's it. Let's not overinflate this. Like, oh, we hit this and now everything is perfect in the world. No, it doesn't work that way. Another set of problems will come. Just how it is.
And that's exactly what one day at a time means. It was one day at a time was never meant for us to fight drugs and alcohol one day at a time the rest of our lives. It was meant for us to live one day at a time the absolute best that we can.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Absolutely.
Adam, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
Well, it took me a while to get into the treatment industry, right? I was doing Recovered on Purpose for a long time, and I heard all of the things, the bad things about treatment. I could never get into treatment. I was on a list at the end, and I wanted to stay away from it, And in the last couple years, I've built an agency. We're doing consulting to help people do startups. And like I was saying, I turned down business that isn't good business for our community. And, we're opening a center in Iowa, and we just got licensed for outpatient. We're doing renovations to have 68 beds for detox and res. And I can tell you, even though I'm doing treatment stuff now as well, and we're opening up in 4 other states right now too, I will always have a couple, how sponsor told me, a couple knuckleheads I keep around for free and for fun doing the 12 steps with them. Because nothing that I do in work is my recovery. And I've done a TED Talk, done a best-selling book, opening a treatment center, gone viral online, and all these different things. And I have never felt better than sitting across from that atheist,
right,
that found God. Nothing beats one-on-one helping an addict recover. Nothing. So if you're out there, you're in recovery, and you don't have a sponsee, go to meetings to find sponsees. That's what they're there for. And if you are struggling right now, recovery isn't for you. It's for the next person that you're there to help. We do this work to set you up to help others, because it's so fulfilling, and we need you.
Yeah.
There it is. Well said.
Nothing like helping somebody else to get out of your own damn way.
Yeah.
Exactly, because getting in my head, that's a bad neighborhood right there.
Anyone watching or listening, if you want to connect with Adam, the links are in the podcast description. Mr. Andersen.
Adam, thank you very much. This has been an absolute joy to talk to you and to get to know you a little bit. Appreciate everything that you're doing. Just keep it up, man. I just think it's great. Denver, when you said Denver, I thought, man, you got a few battles going on in Denver right now. I think that could
I
be
only care about one.
Well, thank you, Adam. We really appreciate you, man. And you know what? Let's talk off air sometime about this veterans thing. If maybe we can come up with something.
100%. Yeah, and a few other things too, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be friends now. I don't know. We're friends now.
You've got it. I'm all in, man.
And we thank you for listening to Pains Don't Hide the Scars podcast, or watching on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@PainNonprofit.